Hi and welcome to a new episode of the Crochet Along With Me vlog, in which I usually invite you to go out with me in nature and to take your crochet project and join me for a few minutes of relaxing crochet. Today it's raining and the wind is blowing, so I couldn't go out to film, but I hope that by the time the end of the next month comes by, I will be able to film outside and resume the outdoor filming schedule. As you probably know already, I am Andrea, the designer and creator behind this channel and all the patterns from yarnonly.com. And in this vlog, I like to show you what I've been working on, what I finished, and to invite you to have a discussion about a topic related to crochet and crochet projects. I usually start by reading a comment from the last episode, and if you'd like your comment to be highlighted on the next episode, make sure you leave it in the comments below this video. Last week's topic was magazine submissions, and I asked you if you subscribe to any crochet magazines. And Barbara McEwan said, I haven't subscribed to any crochet magazines, but I did get them from the library for a while. Morrit looks amazing. It is very costly in Canada, but I love that all the designs seem very modern, whereas some of the mainstream magazines aren't always my taste. Funny you mentioned Morrit. Look what I have here. Thank you for your comment, Barbara. And yes, the magazine might be a little costly, but if your library has a copy, then you could check it out. So this is issue 4, and one of my designs is in it. Yay! It's called Fragaria, and it's a triangle shawl. So if you do get the magazine either in your library or if you buy a copy for yourself, then you will have access to this pattern plus 10 more, 8 of which are garments. I am not affiliated in any way with Morrit. I'm just very happy to see my design in there and all the other nice patterns that they selected for the issue 4. And what makes me the most excited about this is that the digital version comes with the regular full magazine plus an easy read version, so it has the large text, and a screen reader friendly version. That one anyone can use with a screen reader, and if you're visually impaired, you can listen to the instructions and work off of them. So I think that's awesome, and that's the main reason why I recommend this magazine, besides the nice patterns. But the accessibility part is what sold me and what made me want to have one of my patterns or more, if I'm lucky enough, in the magazine. So let's start with whips. This is what I'm working on right now. It's the front panel for a sweater. It's a test for the sweater pattern that I'm writing up now. I've started grading and I already made mistakes, so yay. So maybe you remember last month I showed you this work in progress. I don't remember if I showed it to you. So this was in progress. This is a Tunisian simple stitch sweater with a very simple construction, but it has nice neck shaping and shoulder shaping and also sleeve shaping here, so that it fits close to the body and you don't have a lot of stuff hanging around here at the underarms. And this will be the blueprint for several sweater patterns that I will create in the future. And this month I've been working on the set of measurements so that I can grade this for different sizes, and that has taken me all the time that I had, so I didn't put out any other videos because I was constantly working on this. And now I'm at the point where I can finally start grading and making calculations that I can use to then start testing the pattern. I am around halfway through grading. I've done the front part and I wanted to test it with some yarn from my stash. I dug some yarn from the stash. This is a sock yarn that I over dyed. It used to be pink with orange and some very bright blues, and I couldn't use that. I bought it 8 years ago, so it's quite old. It's good quality yarn, but the colors were unacceptable. You can see here this cake took a bit less color, and you can see the orange better and the pink. So it used to be a light pink, bright pink, kind of purple, orange, and light blue or cyan. It was bad. And I also have some other sock yarn, just plain dark gray with a heathered. So this pattern will be great for using up any scraps of sock yarn that you have. You can make stripes, you can combine them, you can use fade sets if you have them, or you can dye your own, have fun with food coloring if you want. You can try. The base pattern will be the same, and then you can just have fun with the colors and make whatever you want. I'm just making plain rows, one in one color, one in the next, and I change color at the beginning of the row. You can see that it's almost invisible. Another whip that I have that I started this month is based on an older project. I wrote up the pattern for this lacy shawl. And I didn't love the sample. It's made in 100% acrylic, and I don't like the way it looks in photos, and I just don't love it. So I started again using up my stash. Light yellow to green, Cotton Kings old twirls, now Sultan, and Hobby Diablo, just a simple companion with mohair in it, and it's coming up nice. I changed the pattern a bit because the plain lace was boring, and I added 6 rows of more compact stitches with this surface stitch detail. It will come out quite big. I think I'm halfway through the yarn now, and I'm using a 7mm hook with a long cable to fit all those stitches on there. At the end of the row I chain 2, and that helps the edge be relaxed, because this is a pattern with 2 increases on each end of the row, so it will curve up like this, and you need some looser tension on the edge so that it doesn't bunch up. After I finish braiding the sweater, I will concentrate on finishing up this pattern, because I just need to update the rows where you have the cluster stitches, and you will have 2 options in the pattern. One where you just make the plain lace shawl all over, and then the other with the bands of textured stitches. This one you already know. This is the filet crochet wrap that I'm making from the big cake that I showed you in the last episode, and I'm past the halfway point. I weighed the yarn when I got to the last color change, and then I stopped when I had used up half of the yarn, and I mirrored what I had done before after finishing the first pattern repeat. So now I have a cute square in the middle, and it doesn't look unintentional, which is very nice. This will take me a few weeks more to finish, because I only work on it at random times. The last work in progress I want to show you is this yellow shawl. It looks quite small, but it has a few hundred stitches on the edge as well. I showed you the beginning of the shawl in the previous episode, and now you can see I used up 3 balls of yarn, and I have 2 more of this to finish it up. And I hope it will grow a lot after I block it, because it's quite tight at the moment, and I want to open up the eyelets. This is the easier version of the fiery opal shawl pattern, where you only have one type of rays, and I haven't decided yet on the name, but it will be a name inspired by minerals again. If you also want to share your project, let me know in the comments below what you're working on right now. For finished projects, I already showed you the sweater that I made this month. I had just a little bit of the front piece done several months ago when I wanted to use up the yarn, and I still need to over dye this because the color right now is just a bit it's not very impressive, not very saturated, and I think it would look nice in an orange. So I will use onion skins to over dye this because it's mostly wool yarn. It's a sock yarn, so it's 75% wool and 25% polyamide. So it takes dye very nicely, but unfortunately for these 400 grams I didn't have enough mushrooms to make it actually yellow, so it came out a bit more like beige or a dirty unsaturated yellow. So I will maybe make a video when I do this, because I will be dyeing the whole thing at a time, and who knows, maybe I'll make a gradient. It depends on how many onion skins I have. I've been saving them for 2 years now, just taking the skins off, the dried ones, not the wet ones, taking the skins off the onions, and I put them in the bag, and when I need to dye something I use those. I also finished the macaw wings shawl, the pink one. It's huge. It came out quite large because I used a 6mm hook, and this is acrylic, so it grows a bit when you steam it to block the lace, and I didn't think of that. You know that I designed the extra large middle part for the people who want to make the shawl larger, but in my case it made it too large, so I will not be keeping this. I will put it up for sale in my shop for anyone who wants it. It's also pink and it doesn't go well with my skin color, so I hope it will find a loving home with someone who wants a pair of pink wings. I'm very happy that the event is finished as well, and I sent out the prizes last week when everything closed. Now you can still find the pattern for free on my blog. There's a link in the description, and you have all the pages with the different parts of the pattern in there if you want to make your own version. You will need about 1000 meters of yarn, and you can use anything up from almost lace weight to decay weight with the 6mm hook. You might be wondering what I'm wearing here. This is a cute embroidery Morrit Issue made by a friend of mine who came to visit this month, and it has a motif from traditional Romanian embroidery. You might also encounter this motif in knitting, and you might also find it in Tunisian crochet in the near future. Speaking of embroidery motifs, this month I published a pattern for a cross stitch on Tunisian crochet. And you have the pattern for the whole base made in simple stitches, and then a pattern for the cross stitch. It's in my shop, so I will link it in the description below. And what I like about it is that you can put any motif on a blank canvas like the Tunisian simple stitch, and it works very nicely because the stitches are square. This pattern is called Murani dishcloth. Murani is a little village in the Banat region of Romania where the inspiration for this motif comes from. So I didn't copy an actual embroidery motif. They usually work line by line, so all of these lines are created by tiny parallel stitches. I took the idea and created my own embroidery motif using cross stitches. And in case you're wondering, this pattern is not suitable for mosaic. I will have a different pattern for mosaic, and I will put that together with my other smaller mosaic pattern, and I will make a blanket pattern for that. But that's in the future. I have one more tiny finished project. Well, finished object, because the project is not yet done. This is lacy cotton edging that I will put on the bottom of a cute curtain that I made for our very tall window on the end of the hallway. And I still need to wash and block it, and then I will sew it by hand to the edge of the curtain to make it a little bit more interesting. After I finish with all of the other stuff that I have planned, I will also write up this pattern and I will publish it on the blog, just like the jasmine edging, except this one is completely attached to the edge and the jasmine one was more free. This edging is worked as you go, so you go first one motif and then the next, and this helps you to organize the edging around the project, and you don't have to calculate anything, so that you have an exact amount of stitches going around. And I like this kind of border for any project. In some episodes I will add a segment where I show you if I've bought any new yarn and what plans I have for it. And in this episode I have this long merino 200 Bebe from Berlin. I went there this week and I bought 3 of these. They have 200 meters per 50 grams, and I hope to make a nice lacy Tunisian crochet shawl from this yarn, something with a lot of eyelet. I want it to be open and airy because this yarn is very light and very fluffy, and I think it will work very nicely with that. And while in Berlin I also got a cute postcard. I think it's either gouache or watercolor, and now I know what color to paint the house. I think you see that I like this color a lot, so this will work. The topic for the last segment of the vlog is measurements. If you've been opening my emails that I've been sending on Fridays, you are well aware of what I've been doing this past month. Namely, I've been researching and compiling data for a new set of measurements for size and shape inclusive garment designs, for now for sweaters. And I also made publicly accessible set of measurements that you can also use if you want to design something. For example, you can recommend it to a designer that you know if you think it's a good set of measurements, and you can also add your own measurements to a form that I created, and I will be using the data from this form to generate some trend lines for different measurements, so that I can extrapolate the garment measurements that I will be using for my future garment patterns. There are 19 measurements in this form, and you can take most of them yourself. You will need help for a few of them if you're not super flexible. So the idea for this whole year is to gather data. The form will be open until the end of the year. And if people want it to be open longer, I will keep it open longer, of course. And I want to extract the data every month and to plot all the data points I have. So there will be 19 graphs with the points, each point corresponding to one person. And I will plot them against the bust size, which I will use as a sort of a base measurements. Because I also used this when comparing different data sets for the previous work that I did this month for the big article, which you can read on my blog, by the way. I've been thinking of turning it into a video, and it would be pretty much like a scientific presentation where you show results and discuss. So if you're interested in that, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, because I will probably record that in a couple of weeks if I have time. And then the article will be more accessible to more people. I think it's good to see what we have and to try to improve upon that. And in the article you will also find all the sources for my data, and most of them are publicly available except one where you have to buy it for like €5 or $5. It's worth it if you are a designer. If not, you can look at all the other data that I have gathered. There is one important mention I have to make though. Some of those measurements are for garments and some are for people. So when you design a garment, you start from the personal measurements. You have a chart of different numbers that correspond to actual body measurements. You start from this chart and then you decide on a specific amount of ease, which is how far the garment will stay from the body. For example, for this sleeve, you can see I have about 5 centimeters of ease at the wrist, and for the main part of the sleeve I have about 10 centimeters of ease. Designers decide how much ease to put in the different parts of the pattern, and the final measurements, the final garment measurements, will depend on how much ease they used and which measurements they used for the body. So this complicates things because some body measurements are not very similar to actual bodies. So the proportions end up being way off. And that's a problem when you try to make something that fits you. When you don't care about fit and you just want something oversized and floofy, it doesn't matter that much. You can make anything you want that doesn't fit, not a problem. But if you want something that feels comfortable while wearing and there are no drafts going through, then you need to use a pattern that starts from measurements that take into account the shape of the body, not just the bust size. Because the bust size is irrelevant to the rest of the body. You can have a really big bust size and a very narrow waist and a very small hip measurement and very narrow shoulders, or you can have a very small bust size compared to your shoulder width. Different bodies have different shapes, and the ease is meant to allow many people of different shapes with similar measurements to wear a garment in a specific size. Now, it would be nice if everyone learned how to modify patterns to fit their shape. But first, to be able to do that, you need to know your own actual measurements. So in order to do that, you have to measure yourself. You can use the drawings in the form as guides to know where to take each measurement, and then you can write everything down in the form and send yourself a copy, and then you have a lot of measurements of your body, and then you can start making adjustments to patterns so that the garments that you create from them will fit you better. So you're not going to only be helping me to design better fitting garments for the future, but you're also helping yourself, because now you know exactly what to look for when researching garment patterns for making stuff for yourself. And of course, the finished body measurements that I will get from processing the data that you input into that form will be public, and all designers will be able to use them if they want to. I am doing this for the community because I like to volunteer, and this is the skill that I have that will benefit a lot of people. I hope so. So please fill out that form and tell your friends about it as well, if they like to make things for themselves, or if you want to make things for your friends and family. You can also input their data in the form I would appreciate it very much if you do that. And then I will write some articles about adapting crochet and Tunisian crochet patterns to fit you better, depending on the type of fit that you want. I am planning to write an article about ease, what it is, how it influences the finished garment measurements, how you can use the ease and how much ease you should choose from the different patterns, and how to choose a pattern with ease in the right places, and also a part about choosing the type of ease for designers. For example, if you should choose a percentage or a fixed number or a change in the radius of circumferences. I'm planning another article about bust shaping, this part particularly, where you have to add some fabric to accommodate the bust without changing the rest of the pattern, and about sleeve shaping and armhole shaping, so that you can get a nice sleeve where you can move your arms around without any issues. So these are my 3 main goals for articles about fitting. I hope I will have them all finished by the end of the year. Let me know in the comments below if you have any thoughts about measurements, if you find patterns that fit you well, or if you have issues with specific measurements in patterns that you've already used. Let me know what you're working on right now, and I will see you in my next video. I wish you a great month of April and happy Easter if you celebrate. Bye!